If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm your host, Katherine Hansen, and I want to welcome you to the show. I'm looking forward to today's episode because I'm sharing a conversation that goes beyond helping you end binge eating and aims to help you use brain-based concepts to thrive in your everyday life. I have a guest on the show who has been here before in episode 42. Her name is Fernanda Lind, and she's the host of the Wired to Win podcast. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, and her focus now is on helping people reach their highest potential and step into more power and confidence in their lives and work. Fernanda has spent over 10 years researching neuroplasticity and ancient wisdom, and she's achieved so much success both professionally and personally, and she's guided others to do the same. Now, if this is your first time listening or you're new to recovery, you may not yet feel ready to implement what you'll learn today about success and thriving. But I hope that the discussion will inspire you to see what's possible. If you've listened to the show for a while, you may already know that I don't believe you have to be thriving or achieving your goals or feeling like you're living with meaning and purpose in order to stop binging. It can be really hard to even think about some of your higher goals when you're caught up in binge eating and purging and constantly thinking about food and weight. Believing that you need to be thriving and fulfilled in order to let go of the binge eating habit can keep you stuck. Because when you have hard days or when you don't feel like things are going right, you'll be much more likely to believe those lower brain thoughts that say, your life is not what you want it to be, so there's no point in recovering and you might as well binge. It's important to dismiss those thoughts and remind yourself that stopping binge eating and learning to thrive are two different goals. Sure, there are some connections between the two goals, and stopping the binging can definitely be a first step toward learning to thrive in other parts of your life. Another connection is that some of the lessons that you learn from stopping binge eating, especially when it comes to the way you relate to your thoughts and impulses and urges, can really benefit you in other areas. And that's what Fernanda will address today. I hope that this introduction has helped you feel prepared to listen to this conversation, and I'll go ahead and share it now. Welcome to the podcast, Fernanda.
Thank you, Katherine. Super excited to be here again.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you back on the show. Those of you who are new here, Fernanda actually talked with me in a previous episode about the power of mindfulness in binge eating recovery. And I'm going to put a link to that episode in the show description. And I encourage you to listen to that if you have not already, because she explains some of the practical benefits of mindfulness or a meditation practice as you're learning to dismiss the urges to binge. And in that episode, we talked about how meditation helps strengthen the parts of your brain that you need to use when you're breaking the binge eating habit. And in today's show, Fernanda is going to dive deeper and talk about how learning the nature of thought and learning about the power of your mind can help you beyond recovery. This is the work that she does now, helping people rewire their brain so that they can not only end harmful habits, but so that they can also learn to thrive in their daily lives and have more resilience and success. I want to start by basically talking about why we're sharing this topic today and why it's especially important right now. Fernanda, at the time of this episode on your website, which I'll put in the show notes as well, the main headline is, "Transforming Your Mind is the Fastest Way to Thrive in Challenging Times." And these certainly have been challenging times. The last year or so has created so much change in all of our lives, and we've faced circumstances that we've had little to no control over. But one thing we can learn to master through any circumstance is our own mind. And I think it would be really helpful, Fernanda, if you can start by explaining why it's so important for people to learn about the power of their own mind during these challenging times.
Yeah, I would love to geek out on that. I think, first of all, what a year we've had. Who would have guessed that the pandemic, that it would stretch out into a full year and maybe even longer than that. And I think for all of us, it put us in a position where we had to not only face this big outer challenge, but also to kind of face ourselves. I know certainly for me personally, for colleagues, friends, my family, children, we were all kind of stuck with each other and stuck with ourselves. And in those moments when all we kind of have is our mind or ourselves, so there's nothing else to hang on to, it is truly exposed how important it is to use your mind in an empowering way, I want to say. And also, I think it became very clear, not only to me personally again, but to my clients, to people that I work with, friends, family. And I know, Catherine, you and I chatted as well a little bit about what this year brought to all of us. But it really showed us maybe the weaker parts of our brains and where we need maybe some strengthening or some resilience or some mending in order to face bigger challenges, to face not only a virus and a pandemic and the situation, but also face ourselves, face those moments when all we have is our own mind. And as we know, and a lot of the work that you do as well, Catherine, is that big challenge we have that when we are up against ourselves, when we're up against the brain, and how when the brain left to its own devices can drag us down into a dark place, but also a hopeless state. So yeah, the work that I do and helping ambitious professionals, high achievers who are usually working under a lot of uncertainty and extreme circumstances, helping them understand their brain and helping them reclaim the power over their brain is immensely helpful and opens up a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities for growth and to thrive and to achieve bigger things in life, achieve success.
I love that. It's amazing the power of our mind. And you pointed out that it can also bring us down too. Like our brain, I think, is prone to so many negative things, like we see that in the binge eating habit, but it also, if you learn about it, it gives us opportunity, like you said. So I think it would help the listeners for you to explain some of your own background as far as where you're coming from in using these brain-based principles to create the life you want and to have success in your career and personal life. And you also use these principles to overcome your own eating issues. And I want to kind of pause here and mention that in Fernanda's prior episode that's in the show notes, you can listen to her recovery story from binge eating and food issues. So definitely, if you want more detail about that, listen to that show because we're going to go deeper today. So in this episode, we're going to talk beyond recovery to show you that you can learn to thrive in your life when you understand your own thoughts and how your brain can be rewired. So Fernanda, can you talk about how learning about the brain and the mind transformed you personally and helped you thrive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first step was to go from a place where I felt like I was drowning. So I constantly felt like I couldn't keep my head above the water, and learning about how to dismiss urges, how to kind of stay in a place of having more awareness. And that experience allowed me to not only get my head above the water, but to start floating, to feel peace, to feel relief, to learn that kind of basic thing of just being able to float and that being comfortable, that being safe. And that was immense. That in itself, for me, unlocked so much hope, I want to say, but also curiosity around, okay, the brain can do this really cool thing. It got me from a place where I felt like I was drowning. And suddenly I'm like, wow, oh my God, I can float. I'm not drowning anymore. And I started utilizing the tools and seeing how could I continue rewiring my brain and continue using the power of my mind to start swimming. And in the beginning, it felt like, like dogs. You're trying to just move yourself forward. And it felt like I'm never going to be able to swim. But then I actually learned to swim and to swim really fast. And at some point, I hit dry land and got up and finally felt this feeling of, oh my God, like I'm the king of the world. My brain felt energized. I felt like I had power over my attention, which I hadn't experienced in decades. And from there, really creating, again, a new set of tools, using my brain again for the next level of growth, which means standing on dry land and exploring a whole new world of possibilities and opportunities. And that's kind of where I today have dedicated my work to help women, especially, and women leaders and women who might be high up in their corporate careers, like having a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure on them, helping them not only start floating, but swimming, but then essentially getting on dry land and starting there with a new set of tools and armed with a new inner power to conquer this new inner world, I want to say, and to really get to know themselves and get to experience what they are capable of, which can be both really scary, can be kind of daunting, but also immensely fulfilling. So that's that's what I focus a lot on today, I would say.
That's such a great analogy. I love how you describe you felt like you were drowning to floating to swimming to walking on dry land. And I just think that's very relatable because I felt the same way when I was struggling with binging. And I know a lot of the listeners can relate to this. Like when I was stuck in the binge eating cycle, I couldn't even think about thriving or, like you said, swimming or walking. It was like I was just trying to keep my head above water. My eating disorder took up so much of my life that I felt like I didn't have time or energy left. And sometimes it felt like I was just trying to get through each day, like just to survive. And I just want to say to anyone out there, like, if you're in that place, know that you're not alone. Like I've been there, Fernanda's been there. And in order to get to a place where you feel like you have the space for other goals, you do need to work on getting the binge eating habit out of your life and really conquering this harmful behavior. And once you do that, you will have the extra time and the energy to devote to learning to swim, learning to improve other areas of your life. And you will also have learned things from your recovery, like from learning to master your own mind in recovery that can then help you make these other changes in your life. So I feel like when you do use the power of your brain to end a binge eating habit, it does set you up for using your brain successfully in other ways. And I hope that that gives you hope. And Fernanda, I'd like it if you maybe could add to that as well. Like, what would you say to encourage people who do feel stuck, who feel like they're in that sort of drowning stage in their eating issues? Like, what would you say to them about their potential for thriving, just to encourage them that there is hope on the other side?
Well, here's the truth, the absolute truth, that there is not only hope, but I want to say that it's 100% certain that you can recover, you can get your life back, you can end this horrible, devastating habit. And here's what I mean by that. In my experience, I mean, same with you, Catherine, but I struggled for decades and I couldn't understand why I could be so successful in other areas of my life. But when it came to this and food, I felt so broken and out of control. And there are a few different things that need to be in place in order to transcend, I want to say, the urges to binge and to learn. So it's basically just a skill. And it's a skill that you need to learn. And it's really humbling. It can feel impossible at times. It can feel really hard. And the skill in itself is very simple. So simple, yes, but it's not always easy. What I want to say is this. First of all, we need understanding. So we need to understand what is going on in the brain. And this is what I think Catherine's book, I hope that everyone who is listening have read the book, because it must begin there. You need to have a deep understanding around what's going on in your brain. That in itself will give you awareness, and it will arm you with the ability to notice, to see, to have awareness around how your brain is really sabotaging you and really dragging you down into a darkness, into a place where you're stuck in your habit. And that's step number one. But then there's this other part to this, which is, in my opinion, equally important. And it is that you need to strengthen the prefrontal cortex. You need to strengthen your mind in order to be able to dismiss the urges. And that can take time. It's like strengthening a muscle. And it comes through repetition, through dismissing again and again and again. And when you feel like you've dismissed 20 times, then you do 30. And then when you feel like, oh my God, but I've just missed or just 100 times, and then you keep going. And it is as simple as that. And again, it's not easy, but it takes a willingness, a commitment to doing the work in order to get to a place where you have mastered this skill, that it's absolutely possible. There is not only hope, like it's nothing that is just going to come by luck or chance, but it comes through repetition, doing the work and having deep awareness and understanding on how the brain actually works. So yes, to answer your question, there is more than hope, so much hope and so much possibility. And yeah, as long as there's a willingness to do the work, anything is possible.
Yeah, for sure. And both of us are examples of that. We were both in places where we kind of felt hopeless. And
yeah,
like there's nothing special about us that gave us this ability. It's just something we learned to cultivate. And so many other people have done the same. And you can also use this skill in other areas. And I want to transition to talking about thriving, using the power of your mind to improve your life in the ways that you want. And I want to focus on 3 specific areas, or basically qualities that you help people develop and improve. And these qualities that I want to talk about are resilience, self-confidence, and success. And I feel like addressing these 3 things will benefit the listeners as they learn to move beyond binge eating and to thrive in their daily life after an eating disorder. And before we dive in, I just want to say that I really like the way you teach, because it's not just this typical positive self-talk model that you sort of have to be a cheerleader for your own self-improvement and success. And there's really nothing wrong with positive self-talk at all. I mean, that's fine if that works for you, but I like that your advice goes deeper than that and comes from, like you said, having a deep understanding of how the human mind works and how we can use it to cultivate the qualities that we want to possess. Now, before we get into these 3 qualities, can you just talk about that, about how your approach is different from sort of the standard self-improvement models?
Yeah, like you said, I don't do any pep talk, positive self-talk. I rebel against all of that. I think it's completely missing the mark and pointing people in the wrong direction. And the way I look at any transformation, you want to say, it's that first, what I call is this part of having awareness, something kind of what I touched upon already, but at a stage where you need to have understanding. So it needs to be backed by data, by science, by research. It's really ingrained that this is truth. This is what works. And I try to break down concepts that might feel technical or hard to understand, and to break them down to a very simple framework that we can apply in a very practical sense. I don't do a lot of fluff. I want things to be very practical, something that you can integrate and live by. The next phase in the work that I do is about also embodying the experience, meaning that so what we're learning doesn't just stay at an intellectual level. So we can really integrate that. We can have an embodied experience, meaning that if we start moving into the last phase, which is the phase of, you want to call thriving or shifting yourself into the next level, you can't move into that place of where you are thriving, achieving, having success, moving forward, if you're still dragging around maybe a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-hate or self-doubt. That embodied experience, we need to get to a place where the brain is not in a kind of survival mode. It can't be in fight or flight or freeze. It must be in a place of feeling peace, feeling grounded, feeling whole and complete, and really an embodied, integrated experience. And then from that place, it's possible to start, you want to be on dry land and be able to start running and exploring the world and thriving and achieving things. So through that whole transformation, I'd like, again, to be very practical, very methodical, working step by step and ensuring that every single part of the way your mind, your body, your soul is aligned and following along in that process. And this is, I guess, again, kind of like my rant against the pep talk, coaching, positive self-talk way of doing things. People are just going directly to the thriving part, you want to call it, and trying to move people there by just thinking positively. You can't really gloss over those other parts. There's a need for a deeper understanding, I believe, to why the brain is doing what it's doing, why I'm feeling stuck, why I'm self-sabotaging, why I am, stuck in a habit, for example. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. I think it sets us up well for talking about these three qualities because it's not going to be you just saying, yeah, you can have self-confidence. You just have to think positively. It's just different than that. So I would like to talk about these qualities, and we'll start with resilience. And with resilience, I feel like an eating disorder, like recovering from one and getting over the binge eating habit, naturally builds your resilience because there is so much challenge in your life when you're struggling with this day after day. But how can people use their brain to continue building resilience in their daily life after the eating disorder?
So resilience is about, in my opinion, about having more breakthroughs than breakdowns. So again, it's about having the mental ability to bounce back quickly from any setback. And more than that, to having the mental power, the capacity to redirect your attention with intention to the task at hand or to your bigger mission in life. And like you said, the truth is that if you've been struggling with food, with binge eating, you are so incredibly resilient. Exactly what you're pointing towards, because it's a day-to-day thing of just getting up, even if life feels really hard, even if you are just so disappointed in yourself, even if you feel powerless, and having that ability to bounce back and move forward and just, go to work or go to school or whatever it is you're doing, taking care of kids, no matter what. And I know it can be really hard right now to see what a gift it can be to have gone through this kind of hell that you're going through. At some point, you will see that it also cultivated resilience within you. And resilience is definitely that. It's a mental muscle, and it must be trained daily. And without this mental muscle, a setback will bring you down. It will keep you stuck, again, in a hopeless state. Your brain will hold you hostage in a state of survival. Usually it holds you hostage in the freeze state, where we are experiencing procrastination, fear, self-doubt, overwhelm. We're feeling emotionally burnt out. We're feeling depleted. And I remember when in my life, when we chatted about this, feeling as if everything was just about survival, surviving emotional blows, surviving setbacks, having to pep talk myself to push through, to move forward. That was kind of the only tool that I knew. I had to push through, and trying to conquer the day, to achieve anything was a lot of hard work. And resilience felt like it was hard work. I had to work really, really hard at it. And it's really exhausting. And I bet that if you're listening right now, you probably feel the same way, that it's sort of hard work. And again, this is what I mean by transforming your mind, that precedes anything. And it is the fastest way to create success and to thrive, even in the face of a huge challenge, when you're facing a high stakes situation. So in order to bounce back and to be able to perform at the highest level, when everything is at stake, you must have reclaimed the power of your mind over your lower brain. Because without that, you are at the mercy of a survival instinct that will keep you stuck in fear, stuck in hopelessness. So not a state that will achieve any kind of career success or business success or life success. And absolutely not a state where you're thriving. So the primitive brain is really just designed to keep us safe. Yes, to be resilient in order to survive, but not to take risks and thrive and to take on the world in that sense. And I've seen that for myself, with our women that I work with, they come from a place of surviving, feeling like they're drowning, where life and work just feels like a constant battle. And this is even for people who are super successful in their careers, that once they learn how to harness their mental power and they learn how to rewire their brain to go from a state of freeze and feeling overwhelmed to finally breaking free from that hold that their primitive brain is having on them, they can finally start bouncing back quickly. They cannot operate under extreme uncertainty without feeling this panic. And they can stay calm and present in high stakes situations. So through any kind of, even through like crazy pandemic, that kicked all our asses this past year. So it is incredibly liberating to reclaim your power over the brain and having control over your attention. I want to really say that that's what resilience is about. That is everything. And again, just anchoring in what you mentioned earlier, Catherine, that no, you don't have to have it all figured out to recover. You do not have to be resilient or successful at all. But I want to say this, that once you overcome these self-sabotaging patterns, then you will be fully equipped to thrive, to take on the world, and having this sense of being resilient in a true way, with a lot of determination and grit, and also having a lot of evidence that you overcame something as devastating as binge eating. And I mean, anything is possible after that. Trust me, I've seen that in clients. It's such an exhilarating feeling. It's that in itself will unlock so much resilience and an ability to bounce back quickly and have more breakthroughs again than breakdown.
Yeah, that's a great phrase. I really like that. You'll have more breakthroughs than breakdowns. And I think it comes back to attention. Like if you're focusing on those survival instincts and on that fear that naturally comes up, like in all of us, if you're focusing there, then you're not going to thrive in stressful situations. You're not going to have those breakthroughs. You're going to have those breakdowns. So if you can, focus your attention away from those things and onto the things you want to focus on, then you have that power to be resilient in a way that's deeper than just trying to talk yourself into being resilient. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so next I'd like to talk about self-confidence. And this is something I think that people with eating disorders really tend to struggle with even after the eating issues end. I think that many people still struggle with seeing their own worth and maybe in standing up for themselves, and even with the body image issues and things like that. So how can people foster a mindset that promotes more confidence in themselves?
Well, if we look beneath the hood of the brain, we can see that the lack of confidence is because you are experiencing insecure thinking. So you're having thoughts that create self-doubt, maybe even self-hate, maybe self-rejection. And it's also deeply rooted in self-worth, right? In fear or the suspicion that something is inherently wrong with me. I know I had that fear or that suspicion. And this is probably a belief that if you're listening right now and you're experiencing lack of confidence, that you maybe have or have had and entertained for a long time. And also you might have a lot of evidence in your life, or at least your brain has been gathering and looking for evidence in your life to why that is true. What I mean by that is that the lower brain has been putting all of its attention on why you are failing in life. So for example, hey, look, you can't even stop binge eating. Of course, something is wrong with you, right? And here's where I believe that deep rewired work must begin, okay, to unpack, to rewire those sabotaging thought patterns. And this is why I loathe the positive thinking and all that crap and manifestation and just like repeating mantras. If you say it many, many times, you're going to start believing it. And all you have to do is kind of expect your brain to change just like that. And then you're going to have everything you want. So really want to challenge that and say that no, that it takes incredible hard work and commitment to rewire your brain and to break free from that insecure thinking, from those patterns, those sabotaging patterns. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast right now, like you know this in your heart to be true, you resonate deeply with this truth because you've been at it for years, right? Doing all the things, and still you're fighting this battle. So no, there is no quick fix. There's no easy way out. Or there's not just a positive think your way out to freedom or to confidence. Or even worse, the whole fake it till you make it, yeah? And I can go into a full rant on this, but no, confidence is truly built through rewiring your brain, It's unlearning patterns of insecure thinking. Your brain is in a state of hopelessness and a victim to circumstances. And there are probably a lot of thoughts in the brain. Something like, there's nothing I can do to change this. I am powerless. I will always feel insecure, or this is who I am, and there's something wrong with me anyway, so why bother? I know I experienced that. And you need to start looking. It starts with having awareness, a willingness to step into radical ownership, radical responsibility of your own inner world. That's what I'm talking about here, your own headspace, and to choose a path forward where you actually kind of are standing in front of the mirror of truth. And you're looking at your thinking, at your beliefs, at how your brain is messing with you, how the lower brain is holding you hostage, how it's holding you back, how it's creating all these stories around why you're not good enough. And looking in the mirror of truth and maybe having someone reflect back to you your most limiting assumptions can be extremely confronting. I remember feeling extremely confronted, having to look into the mirror of truth. But a lot of people get angry, lash out, maybe have tantrums. Well, actually, it's your brain doing that. But still, it requires a willingness. It's for those who are, and before our conversation here, Catherine, I took up a quote that one of my clients shared with me, which I love. And it's a quote by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she says, "I've never seen any life transformation that didn't begin with the person in question finally getting tired of their own bullshit." And it made me kind of laugh. My question for you and everyone listening here is, are you at that point yet where you are sick and tired of your own bullshit? Or are you still kind of tolerating it? Yeah, because that's the thing. When we come face to face with that energy of truth, that's when we are ready for radical ownership and to reclaim our confidence. Yeah, before that decision being made, we're just kind of hoping and praying for things to change, to feel more confident. And I remember that living for decades, like barely scratching the surface, and hoping that more confidence would just magically appear if I just achieved more, if I was more successful, if I was promoted, then I would feel confident. I was so incredibly disappointed when that confidence never came. Still same old me, doubting myself, still stuck in fear, and I couldn't wrap my head around that. And if someone would have tried to show me my own mirror of truth, I would absolutely lash out and get angry. Like, why are you doing that to me? Like, go away. That's not true at all. Like, I couldn't handle being confronted with my own mind. To kind of go back to the question around confidence. So confidence is really built and created first by taking that honest look at yourself and being deeply open and willing and ready to rewiring those patterns that are holding you back in that insecure mental state. And I so wish, actually, Catherine, my answer would have been like, just repeat over and over again, like, I'm awesome. That's going to do the trick. I so wish that. But no, it really comes from a deeper understanding, again, to the brain and how it's working and why it's keeping you in a state of feeling a lack of confidence. And we work deeply with our clients with this, like for weeks and weeks and weeks and months, and unpacking these sabotaging patterns. First, to kind of stand in front of the mirror of truth and saying, okay, I get it. My own brain, actually. It doesn't matter what I achieve. It's not the outside anymore. It's looking within and finally understanding how the mind is creating all that drama, that chaos, that insecurity, and how it's holding you back so they can finally reclaim their confidence.
I like that you point out that it's not the outward things that bring us the confidence. Like, it's certainly not achieving more. And we're talking about helping you achieve, but we're talking about getting to a place where those things come naturally. We're not talking about like doing things to make yourself feel more confident. And I think that's a big misunderstanding in the world. And it's part of like what's sold to us too, even when it comes to our body and like, oh, if you're just beautiful enough, if you just weigh this or have this body shape, then you'll be confident. Like, and people just chase that when really, like you said, it's in your thoughts. Someone could have the exact same body and they could be totally fine and totally confident, but you have the same body and you have those thoughts and you're totally not confident. So it's in your thinking. And I think the more people can see that, just the more confidence just naturally is there. It's not that you have to sort of build it. It's that when you let go of that other stuff, it's there underneath. And that kind of reminds me, I know both of us are big fans of Dr. Amy Johnson on the Changeable podcast. And I remember her saying once that confidence is a clear mind. And that really hit me because it's like, wow, there's just no self-doubting thoughts, and if there are, you're just, ignoring them or not turning attention to them. But that's really what confidence kind of boils down to. And I don't know, I haven't quite figured it out yet because all of us, I think, maybe struggle with self-confidence in some areas, but that just really made a huge difference for me.
Absolutely. And that's exactly that. Because the truth is, in the absence of all the insecure thinking, the self-doubt and the lower brain rattling you about why you're not competent or good enough, in those moments when we have, I would call it peace or just like a blank mind, we have all the confidence in the world. And I invite everyone to test this in your life. Like, just notice in the moments where you have no limiting thoughts or beliefs that you are having your conscious awareness or your attention on, just notice that you're actually feeling great, you're feeling confident, you're feeling capable. Like, all of that is present and available to you at any moment. But again, it's that skill, learning to not give attention, to dismiss the insecure thoughts, and beautiful peace and freedom. And again, a sense of deep fulfillment and confidence in yourself, in your ability, your capability that comes when you learn to redirect your attention.
That's very helpful. And I want to go into the last quality, which is more of a concept. I don't know if you call it a quality, but this would be success. And this is a broad term and it encompasses a lot of things, but most people do want to pursue certain goals in their life and feel accomplished. And I know you help people that are kind of trying to achieve at the highest level. But how can, like, people who are just trying to accomplish more standard things or even really big things, how can we transform our mind to foster our own success beyond recovery?
This is my favorite topic. I could talk all day long on how to kind of get unstuck and achieve results fast. And like you said, Catherine, success is a broad term and very subjective. So what success means to you might mean something entirely different to someone else. And to me, success means living life on my own terms, meaning that I do not feel at the mercy of outside circumstances or to other people. Success to me means stretching myself beyond what I think I'm capable of and going for the impossible, like what feels impossible to me. Obviously, to someone else, it might be super easy. It might be a no-brainer. But to me, that feels like I'm stretching myself outside of what feels comfortable. So it's really that. It's playing in the field outside of my comfort zone and challenging myself to achieve greater things. And personally, I want to feel that I left this earth a better place. Yeah, that I created things, I impacted people in one way or another. Even if it is one person, just that gives me a sense of success. Just knowing that another human being, that their life got better because of my contributions in any form. And to me, success is that. It's being of service, about exploring how to create bigger things. And success is a feeling at the end of the day. It's an invitation to ask ourselves, like, who would I need to be to feel successful? The work that I do is a lot about tapping into the identity of who you are being in the world. I work on empowering people to take full ownership of their results or lack of results. So to live in a place of radical responsibility with that kind of identity and ownership. I believe that from that state of mind, we can take massive action. We can achieve success on our own terms. But at the end of the day, it's about that, about learning how to create the feeling of success from within. And again, rewiring the brain so that we can experience that feeling of success. Because here's the thing, right? There are many, many super successful people out there who do not feel successful at all. And to what you were saying, Catherine, there are people who have amazing bodies, you want to say, some kind of fashion standard, that are deeply struggling, suffering, and loathe themselves. Some of my clients are incredibly successful in a career way. If you look at them, it's like they've achieved crazy impossible things, and still they can feel not successful at all. They can feel like an imposter, like a failure, not feeling good enough. And exactly that, learning how to feel fulfilled, regardless of circumstances, to me is a superpower. And again, that must be embodied, must be integrated. It is very hard to achieve your goals, your dreams, no matter what they are, big or small, doesn't matter. But it is very hard to achieve those, to feel successful, if you are at an emotional level where you're still experiencing fear and not worthy of the success, where you're still feeling a lot of anxiety, maybe panic. So to feel accomplished, to feel successful, the fastest way is to transform your mind, to learn how to harness the power of the mind so you can achieve what you set out to do and feel successful and accomplished and fulfilled. And I think we all have experienced that situation where we have maybe a big goal and maybe we have achieved that goal. And then instead of feeling ecstatic, we're just kind of feeling empty, or not feeling anything at all. I remember when I was working as a professional dancer and I landed a big job after a really hard audition. And I remember thinking that, oh my God, like I've been working my ass off for years to get to this point and sacrificed everything for years. And this is it. I remember feeling nothing, just total emptiness and maybe even apathy. It was kind of a wake-up call. And that put me on a quest to figure out why, and also on a quest to figure out how do I feel fulfilled again? Like, how do I feel successful? Which kind of led me also to geeking out on the brain and neuroscience and all this fun stuff that both you and I, Catherine, that we geek out on. But again, coming back to that, successful, something that we create within. And I think in order to achieve more, a great way to start is to learn how to feel successful right here and right now. And that in itself will free up a lot of playfulness, and nothing will be really at stake for you. It will give you the possibility to playful out, to see life more as a game. And when we do that, when we come from that place where my well-being, my happiness, my feeling of success is not at stake, I'm going to feel that regardless, then we are often more willing to take on risks and do things that you might otherwise be terrified of doing, which in itself brings in a lot of success, like we reach bigger goals and our dreams, which can be like a paradox in itself.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening. It's a different way to look at this because we're constantly sold this message that success is an outward thing, that we have to achieve a certain career or a certain body type or a certain level of fitness or money. And it's really a whole new paradigm to look at it, that it's a feeling and it's a personal thing, an individual thing, Yeah. Everyone has different things that help them feel successful, and to approach it in that sort of playful way. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to help a lot of people, I think, just look at it differently. And also, I think it brings it back to the attention in your lower brain, because your brain, that primal part of your brain is primed to make you not feel successful and to constantly tell you you're not good enough or that you're an imposter. These are universal thoughts. It's not just you. It's not just me. It is everyone listening, and everyone in the world has these thoughts. And I think that helps too, like to see like, this is just what my brain does. And I can sort of rise above that and realize, okay, that doesn't have to mean anything to me. And I can still go after the things that I want to pursue to feel that successful feeling.
Absolutely. And I think this is so important, what you're just saying, that it's not personal. It's not you. The brain is at it and rattling every single human being. And again, like I've worked with people from all kinds of, you want to call it like career stages. And it's interesting to see how the brain will bring down or keep feeding all of these lies and negativity, no matter where you are in your career or how successful you are. And the moment we see that it's not personal, that it's not me, and like you said, we can rise above that noise, that chatter, that thinking that is at some point was designed to kind of keep you safe and alive and keep you in a place where there's no risk of something happening to you. The moment we rise above that and see that Again, we're tapping into a new possibility, a new power. You become, in a way, unstoppable and can take action on what you set your mind to. You can move towards your goals and your dreams. And I want to say that life becomes fun again. For me, that felt, having spent decades, my brain just hardwired into constantly being consumed by thoughts around food and eating and my body. Like that was all my headspace. My brain was like on a loop on that thoughts, and finally rising above all of that noise, that chatter, and looking out into this vast inner landscape of possibility. Felt like I could breathe again, like how fun life became, and so much joy was unlocked and more playfulness. And that being said, I don't want to in any way imply that my life is not. I have my challenges, and I having 3 kids there that come with challenges in itself, especially teenagers. And there's a lot of adversity, of course, in life in general. And we all know this year has been like another layer to life. But it is such a freeing state to reclaim power over your mind, because that gives you at all times the ability to create feelings of success, of fulfillment, of confidence, of peace, resilience. And it's always available to you. You're not waiting for outside circumstances to be a certain way in order for you to be okay. And that in itself is everything to me.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a great place to wrap up this conversation. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope that anyone listening has really taken away some useful ideas and some insights about, resilience, self-confidence, success, and just a whole new way to think about these things that you can either use now or like after you've made progress in ending your binge eating habit, because this may not be something you feel like you are in a place to apply right now, but I hope you'll remember it, for the future. So Fernanda, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. And I want to ask if you have any closing thoughts, and also ask where people can learn more about you.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's always such an honor to be on your podcast, Catherine. Like I always tell you, I'm so grateful to you and to your work and to your amazing book, to your program. So it's such an honor to be here. So if you want to come say hello into my world, people can find me at rewiredglobal.com. I also have a podcast called Wired to Win that I haven't had time to do a new episode in a little while, but we're going to start a new season hopefully very soon. And I also have a brand new workshop, the Get Unstuck workshop, and also teaching people how to rewire their brains to get unstuck and move forward. That is going to be available on my website as well. So on rewiredglobal.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'll add a link to those things in the show description. So make sure that you check that out if you're interested in learning more about Fernanda. So thank you again so much for having this conversation with me today.
Thank you, Catherine.
I hope that you found this episode useful and that you can not only stop the binge eating habit, but go on to have success and meaning and purpose in your life in whatever you choose to do. If you need some extra help as you learn to stop binging, you can get my free ebook, The Brain Over Binge Basics, in the show description. That ebook is a 30-page PDF that will guide you in learning the approach that I share in this podcast so that you can stop acting on your urges to binge. You can also check out my course in the show description as well, and the course gives you more detailed and structured guidance as you recover. You can sign up for only $11 per month, and you can use the course resources for as much time or as little time as you need to end the binge eating habit for good. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to end by encouraging you and reminding you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.